Welcome once again to Marijuana Resolve. I'm here with Daryl Pillsbury. I'm Vidda Crochetta, and we are taping from the BC TV studios in downtown Brattleboro. Today we're going to do some fun facts for you. We'll just talk about information about marijuana. A lot of it is related to the history of it. And I think we'll start out some of these facts by telling you that some of the latest figures with arrest records, with what happens to people who have a police encounter with marijuana, you know, the numbers are off the scale. I think our most recent number from 2009 is over 850,000 Americans who were arrested and brought into the criminal justice system for possession and use of marijuana. A lot of it is for possession only or use, very, very little sale. So they're obviously going after the users in this whole effort to keep marijuana criminalized. I mean, I think that's really I think it's a bad omen for a country to do that to its young people.
Well, look what they're doing, Vidda, to a lot of not just young people, older people. We one of our upcoming shows. Hopefully, we want to have a couple people on who a marijuana arrest has changed their life quite a bit. You know, loss of a job, and that's using the drug at home under in privacy.
Right. Really, don't you think most adult marijuana smokers are moderate, responsible people?
I do. Yeah.
I mean, they're not really criminal in the least. I mean, they really are, in fact, I think, just good old regular Americans.
Since we started doing this show right here, Vidda, I can tell you there's even more and more professional people out there that use it as a means of escaping every day's whatever, or wherever they use it. Okay, so I think, the more we come out and talk about it, the more and more people talk about it, the better off we are. One of those exciting facts, just for the heck of it, or one of the facts that we got, the first law on marijuana, okay, was done in 1619. 1619, and it was done by the American colonies. And you know what the law was? It was to require the farmers to grow the crop, the hemp plant.
To grow not the marijuana plant,
no,
but
the hemp plant.
The industrial hemp plant itself, which, as most of you people know, is the botanical cousin to marijuana.
And it was to make that's right, and that's where we first came across it. And it was to make their clothing, their ropes, the sails.
Right.
I mean, it was amazing to me what the reason for it. Now back to where you were.
World history would not have taken place the way it did without hemp as a resource for our societies to use for all of the different reasons. And by the way, you can bet on this. If the original colonies and our so-called founders made a law that hemp was a requirement to grow for the national security of the nation, you can bet that they certainly knew about marijuana. Some of them had to have used it. Marijuana was available by simply you could go at your back door practically and get it. So I don't think our founders would have criminalized marijuana the way we have had it done in recent times.
You talk about the history. Well, in 2737 BC, okay, 2737 BC, the Chinese Emperor Shan Nung and he documented the effectiveness that it had in treating rheumatism, gout, things like that. So
medicinal properties.
That's right.
Is what you're talking
that's
about.
Right.
Right, exactly. Which is pretty amazing. So even back then, you have your Chinese emperors talking about the medicinal use of it. In fact, I'm looking for a Chinese emperor who was talking about using it just for the fun of it. Sit there and a Chinese emperor after a long day at work, sitting back and having a joint would be really something to see, don't you think so?
Probably, and he probably had the whole whatever you'd want to call his people around. They probably sat around smoking a marijuana cigarette as a way to relieve themselves, relax and chat.
And some of the people would have used it as a form of room incense, where they would burn it in a bowl or something like that, not necessarily smoke it in the strictest sense like that. And not only that, marijuana itself is explicitly an aphrodisiac, which is a lot of people don't really seem to understand that. I mean, it's an aphrodisiac that it enhances a person's sex life, and that's not commonly known. And perhaps there are some people who may not want that known. If we're going to go into the vein of some of these statistics, there's one thing that stands out pretty amazing in this country is 100 million Americans who have used or use marijuana. And that number is gigantic. I mean, you'd have to say to yourself, why would a country have anywhere from 40 to 100 million citizens using marijuana who are then introduced to the criminal justice system? What kind of country would do that? I don't understand that. But over 20 million of them use marijuana daily, which is pretty amazing.
And I think that's a much higher number, but that's what they're going by.
Right, you mean the real number?
22.5 million is what they estimate daily users. I would think, I'll go with that, because that's still an amazing number, but I think it's probably even higher than that.
Because we know that the reporting usage is very different than what the actual usage is. In other words, there's a lot more people who are using marijuana.
Very secretively, because they do not want to jeopardize their careers.
And it's not reported the way you would see it, and showing up in the data sets like that. Now, we also know that both marijuana and alcohol are two of the most popular drugs in use today. We're talking huge numbers of people that use both. That third drug that shows up somewhere along the way, which is cigarettes, of course, is the deadliest drug of all. And that has actually decreased, I believe, to some extent. But alcohol and marijuana are running pretty strong. So really, what we really need to see is whether or not we can bring marijuana into the picture the way alcohol is. It's called the alcohol model. And what we really think we should have is the ability for people like Daryl and I, if we want to Joe, all of the people that we work with and know who may or may not use marijuana but sympathize with the cause, to go into a store and buy it like a responsible adult buys alcohol. And the largest number of your people who use alcohol are also responsible users. That's what we're saying about,
well, supposedly.
Marijuana.
I could, as we could say with marijuana users too, some people abuse everything, and we got that because, and I've said it a million times, I don't want to go over to another, million and one, but working at the hospital, I see what alcohol does to the society in general. And the amount of money that we spend on people who abuse alcohol is quite immense.
That's right. In fact, it's a major concern.
It's a major concern.
And if you see it close at hand like that, it really sinks in just how difficult and
it blows me away, to be honest with you, Vidda, that because I'm somebody who advocates for this right here, right. And the walls that I always come up against nice people, good people who I respect and stuff, but they just, in my opinion, are a little bit off on this. And a lot of those folks are the ones that are still going home and drinking their, having their alcohol and stuff and thinking that's all hunky-dory. And for most of them, it is. But if you worked and could see what comes into an emergency room on a regular basis that I do, caused by alcohol, you might have a different approach, because I'll tell you right now, I don't see it happening with marijuana smokers.
No, in fact, the interesting thing about marijuana is, in fact, that you don't have that kind of abuse syndrome. It's a more benign drug. You don't have violence associated with it. Mm-hmm. You don't have a crime associated with it. The largest majority of people who use marijuana are responsible adults. Speaking of marijuana, did you folks know that there are over 200 slang terms for marijuana? It could be pot, grass, weed. They include hash, which I suppose it is, ganja. There's a multitude of terms, which underscores the prevalency of its use. I mean, the people, if you have that many terms for marijuana, it implies that there's a lot of usage. Otherwise, why would you have 200 different ways of saying marijuana in the slang cultures?
Well, that's the number one there. You got so many different words because marijuana can be growing everywhere and is. Right. So everybody's got their own little term for the marijuana plant.
That's right. And by the way, both hemp and marijuana can be grown in many of the latitudes, as you go up and down the latitudes, it's one of the most earth-friendly plants.
Yeah.
That grows so readily. And you know, both hemp and marijuana are extremely valuable plants. In one of our episodes coming up, we're going to introduce our viewers to the nutrition value of both of the hemp and marijuana seeds. Both of them,
Which were used as a food source when they first. It was a food source.
It is now. Anybody in Brattleboro, hey, go down to the co-op. Down there, you just right along the left-hand side as you go in, is several different varieties of hemp powder. Check out the nutritional value of hemp powder. You'll be amazed. The Amigo, I think it's the 3 Amigo. What is it? It's the omega.
It's
I'm
omega,
struggling with the word
B-mega, I don't know.
The different amino
B1,
acids, protein, fiber, all of those things are just incredible in that plant. So, okay, let's.
And again, that's the thing. The Chinese, again, you know, and a lot of people know how they use their herbs and things like that. In 6000 BC, this was a food source.
Right.
The seeds were used for all sorts of different sources of food.
Right, including oils, including different types of creams and things. It has a it's friendly to your body, both in terms of digesting and excuse me, and applying it to your skin.
And we were just talking about you know, what alcohol does to people and why marijuana, it makes you a little more mellower and stuff. But during the temperance movement in the 1890s, marijuana was commonly recommended as a substitute for alcohol. And the reason for this use was that marijuana did not lead to domestic violence. So for all these people who were trying to get weaned and were becoming increasingly angry, it was here, smoke a joint, you know, take a chill pill, go relax.
You're right.
So it's you know.
The temperance movement back then was predominated with women who were abused.
That's right.
The men folk come home from the saloon and beat the crap out of them or something like that.
And
again, remember, I still think that's the smaller picture of what went on with alcohol, but still, it was enough that it created this huge body of women who really became part of the temperance movement, and who were then kind of aggravated by preachers who would preach the evils of alcohol, and women would eat that up, and so you had a strong temperance movement that led to other issues, outlawing opium, outlawing cocaine, and eventually by the mid-30s, the outlawing of marijuana, which and all of which has the devastating effects that we see today. Okay. Let's give our audience another fact. What have you got there, Daryl?
Well, this is something that we know, and this is something that you've seen on this show a lot. Prior to its ban, hemp was a stable cash crop to the family farm in early America.
Right.
The first 2 drafts of the United States Declaration of Independence, which we know, were written on paper made from hemp.
That's correct.
Okay?
Right.
And let's face it, our family farms are having a tough go at it. Why not make hemp? Let's not even go to the marijuana part. Let's just go to the hemp part.
Right.
And folks, you can't smoke hemp, okay? If you did, you'd have a headache by the time you ever got high. So, you know, there is a huge difference between hemp and the marijuana that we smoke.
Right.
So, I mean, that to me is a no-brainer in its own right. Right
exactly. There. I mean, the truth about hemp is we know it's a botanical cousin of marijuana. They're 2 different plants in the sense that one is psychoactive, marijuana, the other one, hemp, is not. And so Vermont, for instance, has passed a long time ago actually, the allowance for hemp farming in Vermont, but they can't act on it because Vermont cannot provide the provisions necessary to get hemp grown by our farmers. And the provisions would be, how does the state of Vermont deal with the issue in terms of the federal regulations? That's true for both hemp and marijuana. Both of those plants, and really they're like trees. The hemp tree is a small tree. It's about yay big around, but it's like 20 to over 20 up to 25
feet, 25 feet high.
Right, that with a little bit of foliage at the top of the stalk. And the marijuana
very sturdy,
plant,
healthy plant.
And they're grown close together like this. This is what hemp trees, they're grown like in a small forest. The marijuana plant has is grown farther apart. It's given wide birth, which then produces those leaves and all of those delightful buds that grow on marijuana and provide what it does for people who enjoy that plant. Okay, what's
Now,
another?
here's a good one, because you know we've heard a few of the fear mongers telling you how it can kill you and it's bad. And there have been 0 deaths.
Right.
Okay,
That's right.
in the last 10-year study that they did, well, not the last 10 years, it went from 98 to 2008, I believe, and in that period of time, 0 deaths related to direct relation to marijuana use. During that same period of time, there was almost 11,000 deaths contributed to the top 17 FDA-approved pharmaceutical drugs.
Right.
Okay, and now we know that marijuana, we got medical marijuana now that is being used in many instances,
Right.
which I will think would take care of some of the people who had died using some of these pharmaceuticals. Maybe not, okay, but I'm just assuming that that could have happened.
Right.
And according to a report that I read, it would take 800 joints to kill a person. 800 joints. And you know what you die of? Carbon monoxide poisoning.
I see.
Okay?
And which, by the way, is an easy way to die, believe
Yeah.
it or not. You just
But
gotta
no, I don't
pace
know if
out.
that'd be easy smoking 800 joints.
Well,
It'd
first of
probably
all,
be a funner way than putting a
Right.
pipe to the end of the car too.
The
But
point that you're making is really that, come on.
It's
not-
ridiculous.
It's ridiculous. It's not a dangerous
To
drug.
me, it's a joke,
We have
Vidda.
no associated deaths, right? I mean,
Yeah.
that's the way we have to, there's no associated deaths.
And neither of us have ever sat there for the Prevention Coalition people in the area, Brattleboro Area Prevention Coalition. Listen, we would stand behind them as far as anybody under a certain age using the product. We're not advocating that. We just want to be able to have, as an adult, the right to make our choice. I am a non-drinker,
Right.
okay? But every now and then, I sure would like to be able to relax after a hard day of running around doing everything that I do. And I have found in the past that for me, smoking a joint was the best way.
You know-
And it just pisses me off to think that there are people out there that think now because I would smoke a joint to relax in my own home,
Right.
that I'm a bad guy.
That's right.
It's ridiculous.
And think of it this way: we both know enough about BAPC, sorry, that to know that we agree with them when it comes to underage people.
Anything.
But when it comes to adults, we really do have a strong separation from them. They do still basically insist on prohibition.
They said that a lot of bogus facts.
Well,
I've
this
been
is
reading
right.
some of the stuff that they put out there, and it's
Some
just
of it is,
absolutely ridiculous.
Particularly as it applies to adults.
Excuse me.
See, the issue really is, if you're an adult, let us act like adults. Don't treat us like kids. And the other thing about the Brattleboro Area Prevention Coalition is that they use the word young. So they'll talk about 27, 28, and under as being young. Look, if I'm 21 and you're telling me an adult, don't be telling me that just because I'm 27 years old that I should be prohibited from using marijuana because you think my brain is still growing. You want me to be 21? You want to make a deal with me, a contract in society that at either 18 or 21, that you want me to be an adult, then you treat me like one.
Well, we can go send you out to war. Okay.
The ironies of
I
of
just,
this is like-
and my other problem is, as a former lawmaker, I took it very seriously when we would be making laws and things. But sometimes when you see something that they want to make a law that you just think is purely ridiculous, this is one right here. This is one. And when you really get into it and find out why it became illegal, it even becomes more ridiculous to me because it was for a reason so that somebody could gain a lot of wealth. A long time ago. That's where it all started from, and now here we are.
money talks.
It talks a lot.
And sometimes it hurts. When you use money against us, it hurts. And so if you have an interest in things like privatization of prison, you have a corporate interest in the big pharma Big Pharma doesn't want marijuana legal because when they push it out, they're going to do it like they do the other pharmaceuticals. They're going to be pushing it on you the same way, and they're going to exclude people who use marijuana just for the purpose of wanting to feel good, which is an interesting issue. We're in this denial, trying to say that well, you can't feel good. It's probably related to that old Puritan effect that we've had to live with.
If
all
you
of
can't
these
feel
years.
good by just praying to God or whatever it is, then you shouldn't be putting anything in your body.
Something like that,
I mean, food makes me feel good, and you got to eat.
That's
Sorry.
another. That's another. In fact, food can kill you faster than marijuana can.
That's right.
Under the wrong.
That's
under
exactly
the wrong
right.
conditions. So, okay, here we go. Another fact: marijuana was first severely restricted as a recreational and medicinal drug in the U.S. by the Marijuana Tax Act of 1937.
Oh, this is a good one.
The law did not prohibit marijuana use, but imposed a heavy tax that legal sale and the use became nearly impossible. Subsequently, though, the laws, in fact, made marijuana
Yes.
outlawed. It wasn't just as a
Because right now we would take the tax.
Right now,
And it would be a
we
really,
take-
really good way to get some extra income. They're always saying we need to find another source of revenue. Here's a big one for you. Not only would you have a source of revenue, you would also get rid of a source of your spending, like we've talked about, the prisons. And I mean, when I was on the Corrections Oversight Committee and on the Corrections Committee for the legislature, the amount of money spent for people who were being put back into prison by using marijuana or you know, they did their P test and it came out positive for marijuana, back in prison they go, was about a half of our budget.
which is an astonishing number.
$70 million.
It's-
$70 million. Yeah, okay, $70 million for the guy who just smoked a joint. Let's throw him back in prison. That's a good place to put him.
Right. I mean,
Or her.
It is. By the way, things are changing. So what we have
Slowly.
Right. Very slowly. What we have here are 16 states so far,
Yep.
and those 16 states all have medical marijuana, and other states have some leniency for medical uses for marijuana. You have nearly the same number of states that have decriminalized marijuana. And so the country is shifting. There's no question that the hard-nosed anti-marijuana people that dates back to the 30s and 40s and 50s and so on is really changing. But we need more of your help. We have the legislature in the second half of its session now. And the legislature has already passed a dispensary law. What we need Vermonters to do is to appeal to your legislators to take up the decriminalization of marijuana. And this is important to remember. We need you to know about the Massachusetts decriminalization law, because it's one of the best decrim laws in the country. And if we could get the Vermont legislature to literally copy the Massachusetts law, that would be the best way to provide decriminalization and protection. It would reduce harm of people who were brought into the criminal justice system.
It's still a misdemeanor type offense.
It would
or
be
not a
not
misdemeanor even. It would be like a
it's
traffic violation.
Right, it's right. It's
$100 fine.
That's it. It's a small amount of money.
Which would save the state a ton of money, because now instead of putting that person in jail
You would
at a
be,
cost of $50,000 a year, you're collecting $100.
Right, you'll be collecting money rather than paying out money.
Yep.
But the most important thing is that you would be telling your citizens, look, we have, look at it this way. In Vermont, we have 55,000 reported Vermonters who use marijuana. All right, we talked about underreporting before.
Yeah, because I never reported to anybody.
There you go. So who knows? And so, but at 55,000, what it means is that 60, 70, 80, maybe 100,000 of Vermonters use marijuana at one time or the other, or even daily. If you were a state representative or a state senator, and you knew that you had up to 50 to 100,000 people in your state using marijuana, in your good conscience, could you really drag them through the criminal justice system and do more harm to them that way than what marijuana could ever possibly do, no matter what harm you think marijuana
Can
may
I answer
have?
that question?
Answer it.
Half of them would you say yes, half of them would say no. Because you said if you were a state legislator, because a lot of them said no.
Right.
You know, some of them have their own beliefs. You know, and of course I can, you and me feel the same way about this thing, but current supporters of medical marijuana believe the drug has significant value for patients who suffer from AIDS, glaucoma,
That's right.
cancer, multiple sclerosis,
Right.
epilepsy,
Right.
other chronic pains. I mean, and we've had studies that show that a lot of people do support this, and it does help. That it is a drug that helps. That's the reason why it has been passed in so many states now. And you know what? When you look at the adverse effects of what that has, and you compare it to some of these things that the pharmaceutical industry is pushing on us, there's no comparison, folks. I'm telling you right now. I'd be more concerned about what the pharmaceutical industry is putting out there for you to use than I would be from a plant that's grown naturally in the ground. I'm telling you, this is just absolutely incredible to me. There's a reason more and more people are using medical marijuana. The other stuff isn't working.
Well, and I want them to be able to continue that. As some people in the state know, I'm against big pharma.
So am I.
I'm totally in favor of a Vermonter using marijuana as a medicine, if that's what they want. The same thing is true with alcohol. I'm entirely against big pharma getting their hands on it. I think there are two dangerous moves in this country. One of them is medical marijuana and big pharma, and the other one is privatization of prisons. Because what it means is they become a profit-making company. And what that means is they need you. Think of it this way. You have stock in a privatization of prisons. What would you do? Would you, wouldn't you be salivating if you knew there were 100 million Americans who smoke marijuana? Because the numbers are absolutely extraordinary. So I think what we really need to do here is to appeal to Vermonters again, to contact your legislators, to try to explain to them how you feel about marijuana. We're not saying that everybody's for it or against it. We're saying that
let's sit down and talk and find out where the common ground is.
And if you feel, if you feel that you're not a criminal doing this, then why would you belong in jail? Look at it this way.
Well, they make you feel like you're a criminal doing this. That's what they're doing, is making you feel like a criminal. And then you get other people that just think you're bad because you did something that you... Although people will speed on the highway, people will get in their car after they've had more than they should to drink. I mean, it's unreal.
Well, look, let's look at it this way then. A lot of people know that I like my sherry and port. I'm known as a drinker. And I'll tell you now, and listen to this very carefully, I am now, and I shall always be, a marijuana smoker. Just because I enjoy my port now, it's a matter of convenience. I can walk into a store and purchase it when I want. Sometimes I get carded. That's not a big deal.
That surprises me.
And that's which is true. But I was carded just about 6 months ago. But the point of it is that that's what we need to have in this state and in this country, is the ability for adults like Daryl and I to make our own choices and not be treated as if we were underage, or not be treated as if we needed to be prevented from harming ourselves when in fact the laws harm us more than what marijuana could.
Or the myth that I'm going to go out and rob everybody to support my habit.
And
I mean, that's another. That's right. That's right. That's another myth.
Right.
Well, we're going to have to go pretty soon, but good show. Hopefully, some facts are out there for you to go out and check out for yourselves. Along with Vidda, I'm against the big pharmaceutical companies also, and I think what's going to happen, because you got Pfizer now already trying to figure out a way to tell by your hair or whatever if you've been under the influence of marijuana, because that's one of the cops' big things. So I think you're going to find that once one of these places, these guys get their tests up and running and get the okay, that we will have marijuana. But it's going to be very well regulated, probably regulated too much.
We'll cover drug testing in one of our episodes also.
So I guess that's it, right, Joe? Right. Are we down to the end? We're down to the end. So I guess Vidda will let you say so long, folks, and keep watching. And hey, listen, they can get a hold of us.
They can email us at marijuanaresolve@gmail.com. Email us. Tell us that you're out there. Send us an email and say, hey, we saw your show. You guys
keep up the good work, or you guys stink,
or something. But just let us know that you're out there. Let us.
Although we don't stink, because
and we won't use your email out of place. I mean, just let us know that you're out there.
And go to our website, marijuanaresolve.org.
Right.
Check out. We have a lot of stuff up there. The fact sheets are up there. There's a lot of information there, and you come to your own conclusions. But we're going to need your help getting things done, and it's time it happens. I mean, I'm willing to do my part. I mean, let's get out there, folks, and and change some of these stupid laws.
Well, thank you for tuning once again, and with Marijuana Resolve.
Thanks, Joe.
Taped again here at BCTV Studios in downtown Brattleboro.
All right, bye everybody. All right, good show.
We winged that pretty well.
That was well.